Khamzat Chimaev has called out Colby Covington. Did this on Twitter. Just said, Colby Covington, you're next. And then there was like a skull and crossbones. But it was big. I didn't even see it when Chimaev saw it. I saw it when ESPN reposted it. Going on around our industry, it's a real thing. What do you guys think? I know you love the fight. I know that you want to see the fight. And we know that the UFC loves the fight. We know that because they already tried to make it. Dana had announced on Pat McAfee's show that whoever wins between Chimaev and Burns, which ended up being Chimaev, would draw into Colby Covington. That was the night, to put in perspective for you. They were out on Long Island, and Yair fought Ortega. That ended up being the main event when this Chimaev and Colby business didn't come around. I'm just wondering what you think. I know you like the fight. I'm wondering, do you think that we can get it? Now, I got a lot out of this. And Chimaev every few days will call somebody out. He kind of has to, because nobody ever accepts the fight with him. Nobody's ever trying to fight Chimaev. So once he throws out an idea to test who's got the balls around here or not, or to reveal somebody that doesn't, he's then got to move on to the next guy. But I don't know where Colby is. I don't know where Colby is mentally or physically. I just haven't heard from Colby. He's been very, very quiet. He has this thing, whatever that is, going on in the courts with Masvidal. But Masvidal's still being active. Masvidal's talking. UFC has stated that whatever that is won't preclude them from being booked. And possibly it means nothing at all. I'm just laying out a time frame. Ever since I saw Colby and he was dealing with that, I haven't really talked MMA. Now, what if they're not related? Not related at all. He's in the gym. He's roaring to go. It's going to be very hard to get Colby back. And I believe we're only in this spot because Chimaev didn't make weight. By the way, we will never know. We will never know. But we do know that whether Chimaev was going to fight Leon next or not, whether that came around or not, we don't have a crystal ball. We do know that was being discussed. We know that when we didn't make Kamaru versus Leon instantly. We know that when the audience was told Diaz versus Chimaev is a number one contenders match, and that statement was never amended. Chimaev would have won that night at 170. An effort to some degree to get Chimaev and Leon in there, and if Kamaru come in next, that effort would have been made to some degree. I'm more trying to show you how fast things change in this industry. We don't know anything until we know them. You see something crazy. I mean, right, it's one of these things, you see them all the time. Hard to plan, hard to be too far ahead, but I do think Chimaev not fighting at 170 is what's going to cost him the title fight. And now we have a discussion of, does Chimaev come back at 170 or does he go to 185? It is an important decision. It's an important decision because it sets up the future. If Chimaev's next fight is at 170, he will stay at 170 for sure until it's either derailed or he gets the belt. Like, his next fight's not going to be at 170, and he makes, but then the following fight's at 185. Wherever he goes next is where he's going to stay. Adversely, if he goes to 185 next, he will never return to 170. That isn't down the road. That isn't a future thing. That will be gone forever. Now, Dana spoke about a matchmakers meeting, and he said that one matchmaker, right? There's Mick and Sean in there, but one of them said, "Hey, let's book Chimaev at 185. Let's go get him a match. Let's do it at 185. Let's learn from this past mistake." And the other one, we don't know who was, but the other one said, "Hey, I think he's a 70-pounder." Now, they would come to that conclusion because of information that they were given. Somewhere, a trainer, somewhere in the camp, a coach, somewhere, a teammate told each of them something different. That is the most likely scenario. But moreover, Dana said, all right, we're 1-1. We need to go and find out what he wants to do. Now, yeah, of course. I mean, of course you have to ask him what he wants to do. Of course you have to say, are you going to get to 170? I'm not sure I'm even going to give you an opportunity, but are you going to get to 170? If so, when can you do it by? What is going to be different this time? Remember, Chimaev's going to have to explain himself. He's going to have to explain, look, here's what happened. It's never happened in the past, which is why I've never missed by a tenth of a pound, let alone 8 pounds, and it won't happen again. Okay, great. As long as they hear that. As long as they hear, so he wants to go 170. But I will tell you, it's a little bit surprising that hasn't been weighed in on. And Chimaev has been anything but clear with us. I mean, I'm telling you about a tweet he just sent out to Colby Covington. Colby fights at 170. We're all aware of that, correct? But how much weight do I want to put into that? Because if I go one tweet down, it says 185. So if I just take Chimaev at his word, now he's having fun with this. He's doing something called trolling. He's changed that. He's doing nothing wrong. I'm just sharing. If I'm to take him at his word, he's a middleweight. And I go to that matchmakers meeting and I try to get him a match at middleweight. If I'm to take him at his word, he's going back to 170 fight Colby. Now, can you even get Colby for that match? I think you could. I don't think it would be on the table. I think if Chimaev would have made weight, we'd be fighting away. I believe that was the move that they're going to do. They cannot do that now, it appears. So could you get Colby to take the fight, right? Colby's a hard guy to get to the table. He is the #1 contender. At all times, he is risking something very big. I mean, it really is. He is risking his #1 position. Now, he's not against doing this. But make sure it's a main event. Make sure it's pay-per-view. Make sure that everything's right. Make sure the right meet of opportunities are right. I mean, he has to look at those things. And he is in a little bit of a different spot because of that risk. Oh, and by the way, if you're the #1 contender in Colby, and no matter how I do in this performance, I don't get a fight for the belt, then what's the point? I've got everything to risk and I've got nothing to gain. Now, I'm only sharing with you this. Colby has the right to consider these things. And I believe that would be a bona fide. I believe he would get that statement made ahead of time, but they would go ahead and concede and say, yes, this is the #1 contenders match. For sure, whoever wins takes on whoever wins between Kamaru and Leon. And that would be Colby's opportunity to get in there for a third time. Potentially, right? A lot of things have to line up. Kamaru's got to win. Colby's got to. But I'm just sharing with you that promise would likely be made. And I think that's what it's going to take to get Colby back. Now, Colby's not going to love the idea of taking on a guy that just missed weight. It's a massively big deal. Massive, right? Massive to miss weight. But for your fellow competitors, they'll look at it as cheating. You cheated. We had a deal. You broke it. Any other agreement and any other rule, they call you a cheater. For some reason, you can break this one, and nobody says you cheated. But you did. And I share that with you because I don't love the idea that Colby could be put in that spot. That he shows up, he makes weight, he does everything right. Go ahead and have his #1 contenders match. He's going to put it on the line against a guy that shows up 3 pounds overweight. And if Colby refused to go through with it, he would be the villain. He would be the one in the wrong. It'd just be a massive situation. So I don't know where Colby's at with Chimaev. It looks as though Chimaev is going back to 170. If he wants the #1 contenders fight, it's got to go through Colby. I think it's an interesting match. I think it's an interesting proposition. I think if everything goes right and that promise can get made, I think you'll have Colby's attention.